May 5th, 2020, Pace, Florida, under a bridge near the Escambia River. The smell hits him first. A construction worker is doing routine maintenance work on a bridge when he sees it. A blue hardshell suitcase tucked into the shadows under the overpass, half hidden by overgrowth, weeds, and debris. At first glance, it looks like trash. People dump things under bridges all the time. Old furniture, broken electronics, bags of garbage that someone was too lazy to take to the dump. But something about this suitcase makes him stop walking. Maybe it is the smell. That thick, sweet, rotting smell that catches in the back of your throat and makes your eyes water. The kind of smell that any human being instinctively knows is wrong. Death has a scent. Once you smell it, you never forget it. Or maybe it is the way the suitcase is positioned. It is not just tossed carelessly like regular trash. It is placed, hidden deliberately, but not well enough. Like someone wanted it to disappear, but did not have the time or the courage to do it right. Like someone was in a hurry, like someone was scared. The construction worker stands there for a moment, staring at the blue suitcase. Part of him wants to just walk away, mind his own business, call it in and let someone else deal with it. But something pulls at him, a sick feeling in his gut. He calls the police. When officers arrive 20 minutes later, they approach the suitcase cautiously. They have been to enough scenes to know that when something smells like this, it is never good. The smell is stronger now, thick in the humid Florida air. One officer pulls on latex gloves. Another gets a camera ready. They photograph the suitcase from every angle before anyone touches it. Blue, hard shell, scuffed and dirty. About 3 feet long. The kind of suitcase you would see at any airport. Nothing special. Nothing that stands out. But the smell? God, the smell. One of the officers grabs the handle. He hesitates, takes a breath. Then he unzips it. The zipper sticks at first, sealed shut by time and Florida humidity. He pulls harder. The zipper gives way with a sound like tearing fabric. And then the lid falls open. And the world stops. Inside the suitcase, folded into an impossible position, is the body of a child, a boy, maybe 10 or 11 years old. His skin is mottled gray and purple, discolored by decomposition. His limbs are bent at angles that should not be possible, forced into the suitcase like someone was packing a bag for a trip. His eyes are half open, clouded and dull. He is wearing clothes, a t-shirt, pants, but they are stained dark with dried blood. So much blood. It is pooled at the bottom of the suitcase, mixing with bodily fluids that have leaked out over time. One of the officers stumbles backward and gags. Another turns away, pulling off his mask, gasping for fresh air. A third officer, a veteran with 20 years on the force, looks into that suitcase and has to walk away before he loses his composure. Because this is not just a body, this is a child, someone's son, someone's brother, someone who had a name and a life and people who loved him, and someone put him in a suitcase like he was luggage. Within minutes, the scene is swarmed. More police. FBI, forensics teams, name yet. They do not know where he came, name yet. They do not know where he came from or how he got here. But they know this much. This child did not die peacefully. This was not an accident. This was not natural causes. Someone killed this boy. Someone stabbed him. The medical examiner will later count 18 stab wounds. Someone shot him. There is a bullet hole in his skull. Someone beat him. There are blunt force trauma injuries all over his small body. and then someone stuffed him into a suitcase and dumped him under a bridge over 1,000 miles from home. It will take dental records to confirm his identity. It will take weeks to piece together the trail that led from Colorado to Florida. But when the truth finally comes out, it will be worse than anyone imagined, because the person who killed him was not a stranger lurking in the shadows. It was not some random psychopath who broke into the house one night. It was his stepmother, the woman who made him breakfast, the woman who drove him to school, the woman who smiled for family photos and posted on Facebook about how much she loved being a stepmom, the woman who, for 3 months, went on television and begged the world to help find her missing stepson, while his body rotted in the back of her rental car and then under this bridge. His name was Gannon Stauch. He was 11 years old, and tonight we're going to tell you his story, along with 9 others just like it, because Gannon is not an isolated case. He is not some tragic anomaly. He is one of many. One child in a long, horrifying list of Colorado kids who were killed by the very people who were supposed to protect them. Welcome back to Crime Uncovered. They call it the Centennial State, Colorado, the land of purple mountain majesties and endless blue skies. A place where John Denver sang about Rocky Mountain highs and where families flock to build better lives in the clean air and open spaces. Denver, Boulder, Colorado Springs, Fort Collins. These are cities that consistently appear on best places to live lists. Places with good schools and low crime rates. Places where young couples move to raise children in safe neighborhoods with mountain views. Tourists come here for the skiing in Aspen, the hiking in Rocky Mountain National Park, the outdoor adventure, the natural beauty. The image of Colorado is one of health, happiness, and wide open freedom. But tonight we're not talking about that Colorado. We are talking about the one that hides behind the postcard perfect scenery. The one that exists behind closed doors, in quiet suburban neighborhoods, in homes that look normal from the outside but are crime scenes on the inside. We are talking about the Colorado where parents kill their children, not in moments of accidents or tragic mistakes, not in cases of sudden postpartum psychosis or mental breakdowns that no one saw coming. We are not talking about parents who snapped in one terrible moment. We are talking about calculated, deliberate, premeditated murder. Parents who looked at their own kids, the children they brought into this world, the children they were supposed to love unconditionally, and decided they were obstacles, burdens, were problems that needed to be eliminated. Mothers who smothered their children with pillows while they slept. Fathers who shot their kids point blank after losing custody for years, draining medical systems, and for years, draining medical systems and charities, then killed to cover up the lies. Parents who staged burglaries and blamed phantom intruders. Parents who invented elaborate stories while their children lay dead in closets, freezers, and suitcases. Tonight we are covering 9 cases. 9 parents from Colorado who decided that murder was an acceptable solution to their problems. 9 families destroyed. 9 children who will never grow up. Some of these cases made national headlines. You might remember seeing them on the news. Others are quieter stories, cases that got buried by time and moved on from by the media cycle. But every single one of them deserves to be remembered because these children did not have a choice. They could not escape. They could not fight back. They could not save themselves. The only thing we can do now is make sure their stories are never forgotten. By the end of this video, you will understand something dark and uncomfortable. That evil does not always look like a monster in a horror movie. Sometimes it looks like a tired single mom at the grocery store. Sometimes it looks like a loving father coaching Little League. Sometimes it wears a smile and posts inspirational quotes on Facebook while planning where to dump a body. But before we go any deeper into this darkness, I need you to do something. Because if you believe these stories need to be told, if you think people should see what real evil looks like when it wears the mask of a parent, hit the like button right now. I know that sounds like a strange request when we're talking about dead children, but here's why it matters. These cases get buried. They get forgotten. The algorithms push them down. The media moves on to the next story. But if you hit that like button, it tells YouTube that this video matters. It pushes this investigation to more people who need to see it. It helps us shine a light into the darkest corners where evil tries to hide. So take 1 second and hit that button. It makes a difference. And if you have not already, subscribe to Crime Uncovered and turn on all notifications. We go deep into cases like this every single week. Cases that other channels ignore. Cases that are too dark, too disturbing, too uncomfortable for mainstream coverage. We do not shy away from the truth here. We tell these stories the way they need to be told. Now tell me in the comments, where are you watching from and what time is it right now? I ask this because I know a lot of you are up late. It is 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. where you are. The rest of your house is asleep. You have got your headphones in, the lights are off, and you are listening to these stories in the dark. There is something about hearing true crime in the dark that makes it hit different. It makes it feel more real, more immediate. Like the evil we are talking about is not some distant thing that happened to other people. It is right there in the room with you, because somewhere in a dark room just like yours, there was a child lying in bed, listening to footsteps in the hallway, hoping tomorrow would be better, hoping the yelling would stop, hoping someone would notice the bruises, hoping someone would save them. And no one did, until it was too late. Let's start with the case that opened this video. The Boy in the Suitcase, Gannon Stauch. Case 1, Letecia Stauch, the evil stepmother who drove 1,000 miles to hide his body. Gannon Stauch was 11 years old when his stepmother decided he had to die. He was not a bad kid. He was not violent or out of control or causing problems. He was just a normal boy growing up in a blended family in Colorado Springs. He liked video games, Minecraft and Fortnite, the same games millions of other kids his age played. He liked spending time with his little sister, Lena. He liked hanging out with his dad when he was home, and he was the kind of kid who smiled in school photos, the kind of kid who did his homework without too much complaint and went to bed when he was told, the kind of kid who trusted adults, who believed that the grown-ups in his life would keep him safe. But one of those adults was Letecia Stauch. Letecia had married Gannon's father, Al Stauch, a few years earlier. Al was a member of the National Guard, which meant he was often deployed or away for training. Long stretches of time when he was not home. When he was gone, Letecia was in charge. She was the one who made dinner and helped with homework and put the kids to bed. From the outside, everything looked fine. Better than fine, even. Letecia posted pictures on social media all the time. Photos of her and Gannon smiling together. Selfies at the park. Family dinners. She talked in the captions about how much she loved being a stepmom, how lucky she was, how much she adored her kids. She played the role perfectly. But behind closed doors, something else was happening. People who knew Gannon started to notice changes. He became quieter, more withdrawn. He stopped wanting to talk about what was happening at home. When teachers asked if everything was okay, he would just shrug and say it was fine. But it was not fine. Gannon started showing up to school with bruises on his arms, on his legs, once on his face. When adults asked what happened, he would give vague answers. He fell, he ran into something, it was an accident. No one pushed too hard. No one wanted to believe that a woman who smiled so much in photos could be hurting a child. Friends heard Gannon mention that his stepmom yelled a lot. And on January 27th, 2020, Gannon disappeared on January 27th, 2020. Gannon disappeared. That morning started like any other. Stauch was deployed with the National Guard. Letecia was home with Gannon and his little sister. Around 10:13 a.m., surveillance footage from a neighbor's camera captures Letecia's red truck pulling out of the driveway. In the passenger seat is Gannon. He is alive, sitting upright. He looks normal, just a kid going somewhere with his stepmom. The truck is gone for several hours. At 2:19 p.m., the truck returns. The camera captures Letecia getting out of the driver's side. She opens the back door. She pulls something out, something heavy, awkward, wrapped in what looks like a blanket or a tarp. She struggles with it. It is clearly weighing her down. But Gannon never gets out of that truck. The neighbor who owns that camera would not review the footage until days later, when Gannon was reported missing. But when investigators finally watched it, they knew. They knew exactly what that wrapped object was. It was Gannon's body. That evening, Letecia called the police. She reported Gannon missing. She said he had gone to a friend's house that afternoon and never came back. She said she had been looking for him all day. She was frantic, crying, begging for help. The community rallied immediately. Search parties formed. Volunteers combed the neighborhoods. Gannon's face was plastered all over the local news and social media. Missing child alerts went out across Colorado. His mother, Landon Hyatt, flew in from South Carolina. She had not seen Gannon in months because of the custody arrangement with Al, and now he was missing. She was beside herself, devastated. She held press conferences, begging for anyone with information to come forward. And the whole time, Letecia played her role perfectly. She went on TV, she did interviews, she cried on camera, she talked about how much she loved Gannon and how she just wanted him home safe. She posted on social media, sharing missing persons flyers and asking people to pray. But investigators were already suspicious, because every time they talked to Letecia, her story changed. First, Gannon went to a friend's house and never came home. Then he went for a walk and got lost. Then maybe he ran away because he was upset about something. Every time police asked her a question, she gave a different answer. Details kept shifting. Timelines did not add up. And then there was the physical evidence. Forensic teams processed Letecia's truck and found blood. A lot of it. In the passenger seat. On the door. On the floor mats. She had tried to clean it, but blood is nearly impossible to completely remove. Luminol does not lie. When they sprayed the chemicals and turned off the lights, the entire passenger side of that truck lit up like a crime scene. They found blood in Gannon's bedroom too. On the carpet. On the walls. Spatter patterns that told a story of violence, of a struggle, of a child fighting for his life. They seized Letecia's phone and found Google searches that made their blood run cold. How to get blood out of carpet? Can cadaver dogs smell bodies in water? How long does it take a body to decompose? Is a child's body easier to hide than an adult's? She had been planning this, researching, preparing. While the search for Gannon continued, while his mother sobbed on television, while volunteers walked through the snow calling his name, Letecia rented a car. And on February 3rd, 2020, she drove out of Colorado, she drove east, through Kansas, through Missouri, through Tennessee, through Georgia, all the way to Florida to over 1,000 miles. In the trunk was a blue hard-shell suitcase, and inside that suitcase was Gannon. She drove for days, stopping only for gas and bathroom breaks, sleeping in the car. Way she drove through multiple states with her stepson's body in the trunk, the smell of decomposition growing stronger with every mile. And then, in Pace, Florida, she pulled off the highway. She found a bridge. She dragged that suitcase out of the trunk and shoved it under the bridge, into the shadows, hidden in the weeds. And then she drove back to Colorado like nothing had happened. When police finally found Gannon's body on May 5th, 2020, the autopsy revealed the full horror of what Letecia had done to him. Gannon had been stabbed 18 times. 18. The medical examiner said the wounds were deep, vicious. Some of them went all the way through his small body, puncturing organs. The blade had been driven in with force, with rage, with intent to cause maximum pain. He had defensive wounds on his hands and arms. It's deep cuts where he had tried to grab the knife, tried to stop her, tried to protect himself. But he was 11 years old, and she was a full-grown adult with a weapon. He never had a chance. When stabbing him 18 times didn't kill him fast enough, when he was still moving, still crying, still fighting, Letecia shot him. A gunshot wound to the head, close range, execution style, and even after he was dead, she was not done. The autopsy found blunt force trauma injuries that happened after death. She beat his body, struck him with something heavy, maybe out of rage, maybe to make sure he was really gone, maybe just because she could. Then she folded his small body into that suitcase, zipped it shut, and drove over 1,000 miles to dump him like garbage. For 3 months, Gannon's family searched for him. His mother, Landon, did not sleep, did not eat. She stayed in Colorado, living in hotels, organizing search parties, doing interviews, begging anyone who would listen to help find her son. His father, Al, came home from deployment to find his son missing and his wife acting strange. His little sister, Lena, asked every day when Gannon was coming home. And the entire time, Letecia knew exactly where he was. She knew he was not coming home. She knew he was not lost in the woods. She knew he was not with a friend. She knew he was dead in a suitcase under a bridge in Florida. And she said nothing. At trial, the prosecution painted a clear picture of what had happened and why. Letecia hated Gannon. She resented him. Text messages between her and Al showed her constantly complaining about Gannon. She called him lazy, difficult, a burden. She said she was tired of taking care of him, that he was not even her real son and she did not sign up for this. She saw Gannon as an obstacle to the life she wanted, and so she decided to eliminate him. The jury heard all of it, the evidence, the lies, the searches, the timeline, the autopsy photos that made several jurors cry. They took less than a day to convict her. Letecia Stauch was found guilty of first-degree murder after deliberation, child abuse resulting in death, tampering with a deceased human body, and tampering with physical evidence. In May 2023, she was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, plus an additional 156 years. She showed no emotion when the verdict was read. No tears, no remorse, no apology. She sat there stone-faced like she was bored. Gannon's mother, Landon, gave a victim impact statement in court. She talked about how Gannon loved Legos and building things, how he had a goofy sense of humor and could always make people laugh, how he wanted to be a video game designer when he grew up, how he was kind to his little sister and protective of the people he loved. She talked about how she will never get to see him graduate, never get to see him get his driver's license or go to prom or get married or have kids of his own. All of that was stolen from him by the woman who was supposed to keep him safe. Gannon Stauch was 11 years old. He trusted his stepmother. He got in the car with her that morning because she told him to. He didn't know she had a knife. He did not know what was about to happen. And when she started stabbing him, he fought. He tried to survive. But he was a child, and she was stronger. His last moments were filled with pain and fear and confusion. And then she stuffed him in a suitcase and threw him away. Case 2, Kimberlee Singler, the mother who just got extradited from the UK, December 19th, 2023. Colorado Springs, Colorado, just after midnight. The 911 call comes in at 12:32 a.m. The voice on the other end is a woman. She's screaming, hysterical, barely intelligible. Someone broke in. My kids. They're hurt. Please help. There's so much blood. The dispatcher tries to get details, address, names, what happened. But the woman is sobbing so hard, she can barely speak. Please just send someone. My babies, please. Dispatch sends every available unit. Police, paramedics, fire. They race through the dark Colorado Springs streets, sirens wailing. When they pull up to the house, everything looks quiet. Normal. No broken windows. No kicked-in doors. No signs of a violent break-in. But the front door is unlocked, standing slightly ajar. Officers draw their weapons and enter carefully. And they walk into a nightmare. Blood. Everywhere on the walls, smeared across furniture, pooling on the floor, splattered on the ceiling. The kind of blood that tells you something horrific happened here. The kind of blood that does not come from a single wound, it comes from violence. Sustained, repeated, brutal violence. And in the middle of it all, 3 children. 2 of them are already gone. A 7-year-old girl lying in her bed, blankets soaked red. A 9-year-old boy on the floor of the hallway, like he tried to run but didn't make it far enough. Both of them have been stabbed multiple times. Deep wounds, the kind of wounds that kill. The 3rd child, an 11-year-old girl, is barely alive. She is on the floor, gasping, bleeding from stab wounds all over her body, her chest, her stomach, her arms, defensive wounds where she tried to block the knife. Paramedics rush to her, start working, start trying to stop the bleeding. Her pulse is weak. Her breathing is shallow. She is losing too much blood. They load her into an ambulance and rush her to the hospital, not knowing if she will survive the trip. And in the living room, covered in blood, is their mother, Kimberlee Singler. She has injuries too, cuts on her arms, bruises on her face. She is crying, hyperventilating. She tells officers that someone broke in, that a man attacked them, that she tried to fight him off, but she could not save her babies. Mark, he just started stabbing them. I tried to stop him. I couldn't save them." The officers look at her. Then they look at the scene. And something does not add up. But they do not press her, not yet. They secure the scene. They call for forensics. They start taking photos, collecting evidence. At first, this looks like a home invasion gone horribly wrong. A mother who tried to defend her children but failed. A tragedy. But then, 3 days later, the 11-year-old girl wakes up. She is in the hospital, bandaged from head to toe. She has been through multiple surgeries. Her wounds are severe, life-threatening. But she is alive. And when detectives sit by her bedside and gently ask her what happened that night, she tells them the truth. There was no man. The words come out barely above a whisper. It was my mom. The detectives lean in. They need her to say it again, to be sure. My mom did it. She stabbed us. And just like that, the entire investigation changes. The girl tells them everything. How she woke up to her mom standing over her bed with a knife. How she asked what was wrong. Why mom was acting weird. How her mom's face was blank, empty, like she was not even there. And then her mom started stabbing her. The girl screamed, tried to run, but her mom chased her, kept stabbing. The girl begged her to stop, begged her to explain why, and her mom said, "God made me do it." Then she stabbed her again, and again, and left her bleeding on the floor. The girl does not know what happened to her siblings. She passed out from blood loss before she could see. But she knows her mom went to their rooms next. Yet when investigators confront Kimberlee with this, she does not confess. She does not break down. She sticks to her story. There was an intruder. Her daughter is confused, traumatized, mistaken. But forensics does not lie. There are no signs of forced entry, no footprints outside that do not belong to the family, no fingerprints from an unknown person, no DNA from anyone except Kimberlee and her children. The blood spatter patterns do not match her story. The stab wounds on the children are consistent with someone standing over them in their beds, not an attacker coming through a window. And Kimberlee's injuries? Self-inflicted. The cuts on her arms are shallow, precise. The kind of cuts someone makes when they want it to look like they were in a fight, but do not want to actually hurt themselves. She staged the whole thing. She killed 2 of her children and nearly killed the 3rd. Then she cut herself and made up a story about an intruder, and she almost got away with it. Before police can arrest her, Kimberlee runs. She books a flight to the United Kingdom. She leaves Colorado, leaves the country, thinking she can hide. For over a year, she lives in London. She tries to blend in, start over, pretend none of this happened. But Colorado authorities never stop looking for her. They work with international law enforcement. They track her movements. They build their case. On December 27th, 2024, British police arrest her in her London flat. She fights extradition for months. Lawyers, appeals, delays. But there is no escaping this. In late December 2025, just weeks ago, she was finally put on a plane and brought back to Colorado to face trial. And she has been charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder, 1 count of attempted first-degree murder, 4 counts of child abuse resulting in death or serious bodily injury, and 1 count of assault. Her trial is ongoing right now as I record this video. Her surviving daughter, now 12 years old, will have to take the stand. She will have to sit in a courtroom and point at her mother and testify about the night her mom tried to kill her. She will have to talk about watching her mom stab her over and over. She will have to relive the worst night of her life in front of strangers, and her mom will be sitting right there, watching her. Prosecutors believe Kimberlee was overwhelmed. She was going through a divorce. She was struggling financially. She was losing control of her life. And instead of asking for help, instead of calling a friend or a family member or a therapist, she decided the solution was to kill her children. She told her daughter that God made her do it. But God does not pick up knives and stab children in their sleep. Kimberlee Singler did that. And soon she will spend the rest of her life in prison for it. Before we continue, I want to pause for a second. I know these stories are heavy. I know they are hard to listen to. Some of you might be thinking about clicking away, about finding something lighter to watch, and I get it. These are not easy stories to hear. They are disturbing. They are horrifying. They make you question how human beings can do things like this to their own children. But if you are still here, if you are still listening, that means you understand why these cases matter. Because these children did not have a voice. They could not call for help. They could not escape. They trusted the people who were supposed to protect them, and those people betrayed them in the worst possible way. The only thing we can do now is make sure their stories are not forgotten. Make sure people know what happened. Make sure the world sees what real evil looks like. So if you believe in that, if you think these cases should be told, if you think people need to see the truth, hit that like button right now. It takes 1 second, and it helps push this video to more people who need to hear it. And if you have not subscribed to Crime Uncovered yet, now is the time. We cover cases like this every single week, cases that are too dark for mainstream media, cases that get buried and forgotten. We do not let that happen here. Subscribe, turn on all notifications so you do not miss the next one, and drop a comment. Where are you watching from and what time is it? I want to see how many of you are up late, in the dark, listening to this, because I know a lot of you are, and I read every single comment. Now let's continue, because the cases we have covered so far are horrifying, but Colorado has more secrets, and we are just getting started. Case 3. Alexus Nelson, the mother who burned her daughter and hid her in a closet. February 5th, 2023. Aurora, Colorado. Alexus Nelson calls 911 at 3:47 p.m. Her voice is shaking and she is crying. She tells the operator that her 5-year-old daughter, Maha Li Hobbs, is missing. She says they were at home together. She looked away for just a minute, and when she turned back, Maha Li was gone. I've looked everywhere. I can't find her. She's only 5. Please help me find my baby. The dispatcher tells her to stay calm. Police are on the way. Have you checked with neighbors? Could she have wandered outside? I don't know. She was just here. Within minutes, patrol cars arrive at the apartment complex. Officers start canvassing the area, knocking on doors, checking playgrounds, looking in dumpsters and behind buildings. Neighbors come out to help. Word spreads quickly in the complex. A little girl is missing. Everyone starts searching. Maha Li's face goes up on local news. Missing child alerts go out. Social media posts start circulating. Aurora Police Department issues a statement asking anyone with information to come forward. For 2 days, the search continues. Volunteers comb through parks and empty lots. Dive teams check nearby ponds. Search and rescue dogs are brought in. And Alexus is there the whole time, crying, begging, praying, playing the role of a devastated mother perfectly. But she knows exactly where Maha Li is. Because Maha Li is not missing, she is dead, and her body is hidden in a closet inside the apartment where Alexus is standing, pretending to cry. On February 7th, 2023, police execute a search warrant on Alexus's apartment. They are looking for clues, anything that might tell them where Maha Li went. They search the bedrooms, the bathroom, the kitchen. They look under furniture, behind appliances, in drawers and cabinets, and then they open a closet in the bedroom. The smell hits them immediately. That thick, sweet, rotten smell that you never forget once you have smelled it. Death. Inside the closet, stuffed behind hanging clothes and stacked boxes, is a large black trash bag. It is heavy. The bottom is damp, stained dark. An officer pulls on gloves, opens the bag, and finds what is left of Maha Li Hobbs. Her body has been burned. Badly. Someone had poured lighter fluid on her and set her on fire. Her skin is charred. Her hair is gone. Her face is almost unrecognizable. The plastic trash bag melted in places where the heat was most intense. It takes forensic experts days to confirm it is her. They have to use dental records because her body is so badly damaged. The autopsy reveals even more horror. Maha Li had been abused for a long time. Months, maybe longer. She was severely malnourished. At 5 years old, she weighed less than 30 pounds, the weight of an average 2-year-old. Her ribs were visible through her skin. Her arms and legs were thin as sticks. She had old injuries that had healed without medical treatment. A fractured wrist, broken ribs, bruises in different stages of healing, from fresh purple to old yellow. She had burns on her body that happened before death, from cigarettes, from hot objects pressed against her skin, and she had signs of chronic neglect, untreated infections, rotting teeth, skin conditions from living in filth. Maha Li had been suffering for a long time, and no one saved her. The medical examiner could not determine the exact cause of death because of the extent of the burning. But based on the patterns of injury, they believe Alexus either smothered or strangled Maha Li, after he then set the body on fire to try to destroy the evidence. When police confronted Alexus with the evidence, she broke. She admitted it. She said she killed Maha Li. She said she was overwhelmed and stressed out. She said Maha Li was difficult and she did not know what else to do. She did not call Child Protective Services. She did not ask a family member to take Maha Li for a while. She did not reach out for help. She killed her daughter, burned her body, stuffed her in a trash bag, hid her in a closet, and then she called 911 and pretended to search for her. For 2 days, she watched volunteers search. She watched neighbors walk through the cold, looking for Maha Li. She watched police officers knock on doors and check dumpsters. And the whole time, she knew Maha Li was in the closet, dead, rotting. In April 2024, U.S. Alexus Nelson was sentenced to 84 years in prison. She will be eligible for parole when she is 104 years old. She will likely die behind bars. But Maha Li Hobbs is already dead. She died at 5 years old, having spent her entire short life being starved, beaten, burned, and neglected by the one person who was supposed to love her unconditionally. She never got to go to kindergarten, never got to make friends, never got to play on a playground without fear, never got to grow up, because her mother decided she was too much trouble to keep alive. Case 4. Kelli R. Turner, the mother who faked it all for 7 years, August the 20th, 2017. a hospice facility in Douglas County, Colorado. 7-year-old Olivia Gant takes her last breath at 11:47 p.m. Her small chest rises one final time, then stops. The heart monitor flatlines, when the room fills with that single continuous beep that signals the end. Her mother, Kelli Turner, is sitting by the bed holding Olivia's hand. She is crying, whispering that everything is going to be okay now, that Olivia does not have to suffer anymore, that she is finally at peace. The hospice nurse steps forward and turns off the monitor. The beeping stops. The room falls silent except for Kelli's soft sobbing. Olivia has been sick her entire life. Or at least, that is what everyone believes. She has had seizures since she was a baby, chronic intestinal issues that make it impossible for her to process food normally. She has been in a wheelchair since she was 3 years old. She cannot walk, cannot feed herself, cannot do any of the things a normal 7-year-old should be able to do. She has undergone dozens of surgeries and countless hospital stays, more medical procedures than most adults will experience in a lifetime. She has feeding tubes, central lines, medical equipment that Kelli has to manage every single day. And through it all, Kelli has been the perfect mother. Devoted, tireless, never complaining. Always fighting for Olivia, always advocating, always there. She has been featured in local news stories about her brave little girl who never gives up. She has raised thousands of dollars through GoFundMe campaigns to help cover the mounting medical expenses that insurance does not pay. She even managed to get Olivia a wish through the Make-A-Wish Foundation, a special trip to meet her favorite characters and have one magical day before the inevitable end that everyone knew was coming. And now, that end has arrived. Olivia's body is transported to the medical examiner's office. The death certificate is signed. Cause of death: complications from multiple chronic illnesses, including intractable seizure disorder and intestinal failure. It seems like a tragic but natural conclusion to a life that had been filled with suffering from day one. The community mourns. Local news runs stories about the little girl who fought so hard. Kelli posts a heartbreaking tribute on social media, complete with photos of Olivia smiling in her wheelchair, and a long caption about how Olivia was her hero and taught her the meaning of strength. Flowers arrive at Kelli's home, sympathy cards, donations to cover funeral expenses. Everyone wants to help the mother who just lost her sick child after years of caring for her. It should have ended there, but 6 months later, a doctor who had treated Olivia starts asking questions. He is going through old medical records, reviewing cases, and Olivia's file lands on his desk. He starts reading through the documented history, and something does not sit right. The pieces do not fit. Olivia's symptoms were always reported by Kelli, but when doctors actually ran tests, they could not find the underlying conditions that would cause those symptoms. Kelli said Olivia had seizures, but EEG tests showed normal brain activity. Kelli said Olivia could not walk, but physical exams showed no neurological damage that would prevent walking. Kelli said Olivia's intestines did not work, but scans showed structurally normal digestive organs. Yet every major diagnosis in Olivia's medical file came from Kelli's descriptions of symptoms that doctors could not actually observe or verify through testing. The doctor pulls more records. He talks to other specialists who treated Olivia over the years, nurses who cared for her during hospital stays, and a pattern emerges. Kelli always insisted on being present during medical procedures. She always answered questions for Olivia, rarely letting the child speak. She would describe symptoms that staff could not witness. She would push for more invasive treatments, more surgeries, more interventions. And whenever a doctor started questioning whether Olivia actually needed a procedure, Kelli would get angry, defensive. She would threaten to switch providers. She would accuse them of not taking Olivia's suffering seriously. The doctor contacts Colorado authorities with his suspicions. An investigation begins. And investigators discover something horrifying. Olivia Gant was never sick. Kelli Turner has Munchausen syndrome by proxy, a severe mental disorder where a caregiver, usually a parent, fabricates or induces illness in someone under their care in order to gain attention, sympathy, and the validation of being seen as a devoted caregiver. For 7 years, Kelli systematically lied to medical professionals about Olivia's health. She claimed Olivia had seizures when she did not. She said Olivia could not walk when there was nothing physically preventing her from walking. She insisted Olivia needed a feeding tube when Olivia could eat normally. She put Olivia in a wheelchair and told everyone she was paralyzed. She forced feeding tubes down her throat and told doctors she could not digest food. She subjected Olivia to painful, unnecessary surgeries and medical procedures, all so Kelli could play the role of the heroic, devoted mother battling against a cruel disease. Text messages recovered from Kelli's phone show her researching medical conditions and symptoms, planning which symptoms to report to which doctors, coaching Olivia on what to say during appointments. Remember, tell the doctor your tummy hurts really bad. If they ask if you can move your legs, say no. Don't tell them you ate breakfast. Kelli was not just lying to doctors. She was training her daughter to lie too, teaching a small child to fake being disabled, to pretend to be in pain, to play the part of a dying girl. Olivia should have been healthy. She should have been running around playgrounds and going to school and living a normal childhood. Instead, she spent her entire short life in hospitals and medical facilities, subjected to procedures she did not need, forced to use equipment she did not require, all because her mother wanted attention. And when doctors finally started catching on, when they started questioning Kelli's claims, running their own tests, pushing back on unnecessary treatments, Kelli made a decision. She killed Olivia. The medical examiner who performed the original autopsy is asked to review the case again, this time with the knowledge that Olivia's medical history was fabricated. They exhume Olivia's body, they run new tests, they look for things they would not have looked for the first time, because they believed Olivia died from natural causes. It's when they find it. Olivia did not die from seizures or intestinal failure or any chronic illness. She died from a drug overdose, specifically a massive dose of a sedative medication that Kelli had access to, a medication that, when given in high enough quantities, stops breathing and looks like a natural death in someone who was already medically fragile. Kelli gave Olivia a lethal dose. Then she sat by the bed and held her hand and cried, while Olivia slowly stopped breathing. And because everyone believed Olivia was dying anyway, no one questioned it. They signed the death certificate. They held a funeral. They moved on. But the doctor who asked questions wouldn't move on. He pushed. He dug deeper. And he uncovered the truth. In 2023, Kelli Turner was arrested and charged with first-degree murder, child abuse resulting in death, theft by deception, and charitable fraud. At trial, prosecutors showed the jury years of evidence, medical records proving Olivia was healthy, text messages showing Kelli coaching her daughter to fake symptoms, financial records proving Kelli stole tens of thousands of dollars in donations. They showed emails where Kelli researched symptoms to fake, where she looked up which doctors would be most likely to approve treatments without questioning, where she strategized about how to get Olivia accepted into Make-A-Wish. The Make-A-Wish Foundation issued a public statement saying they had been deceived, that Olivia had been granted a dying child's wish under false pretenses, that Kelli had exploited a charity meant to help genuinely sick children so she could continue her charade. The jury heard testimony from doctors who had treated Olivia, who had started to suspect something was wrong, but had not pushed hard enough, who now had to live with the knowledge that maybe if they had been more aggressive in their questioning, Olivia might still be alive. Kelli Turner was convicted on all counts. She was sentenced to 16 years to life in prison. She will be eligible for parole in 2039 when she is 61 years old. But Olivia Gant is still dead. She died at 7 years old, having spent every single day of her life being tortured by the person who was supposed to protect her. Her mother kept her in a wheelchair when she could walk, forced tubes into her body when she could eat, pumped her full of medications she did not need, put her through painful procedures that served no purpose except to generate sympathy for Kelli. And when the lies finally started to unravel, Kelli killed her to keep the truth hidden. Olivia never got to go to a regular school, never got to run and play, never got to live without needles and hospitals and pain. She was murdered twice. Once slowly over 7 years, by being forced to live as a sick child when she was healthy, and once quickly by an overdose, when her mother decided she was more trouble than she was worth. Case 5. Kelli Murphy, the custody battle that ended in murder, September 2nd, 2011. Castle Rock, Colorado. Kelli Murphy dials 911 at 6:17 a.m. When the operator answers, Kelli is screaming, hysterical, barely able to form words. "My kids, something's wrong. They're not breathing. Hey, please help." The operator tries to calm her down, tries to get information. "What happened? How old are the children? Are they conscious?" "I don't know. I just woke up and they're not moving. Kites, please send someone." Dispatch sends paramedics immediately. Castle Rock Fire Department, Douglas County Sheriff. They race to the address Kelli provided. When they arrive, Kelli meets them at the door. She is wearing pajamas. Her eyes are red. She looks like she has not slept. She leads them inside to 2 bedrooms down the hall. In the first bedroom, they find 9-year-old Liam Murphy lying in his bed. He is not breathing. His skin is already cool to the touch. Paramedics check for a pulse. Nothing. They start CPR anyway. They have to try. In the second bedroom, 6-year-old Madigan Murphy is on the floor next to her bed, or like she fell or tried to get up. She is also not breathing, also no pulse. They start CPR on her too. They work on both children for over 30 minutes. Chest compressions, rescue breathing. They load them into ambulances and rush them to Sky Ridge Medical Center. But it is too late. Both children are pronounced dead on arrival. Back at the house, detectives are trying to figure out what happened. At first, they think it might be carbon monoxide poisoning or a gas leak, something environmental that killed both kids while they slept. They test the house, check the furnace, look for any chemical or toxin that could explain this. They find nothing. The house is safe. There is no carbon monoxide, no gas leak, no environmental hazard. So what killed them? The medical examiner performs autopsies on both children, and the results are shocking. Liam and Madigan were smothered, not poisoned, not accidentally killed by some silent danger in the house. Murdered. Someone had placed something, a pillow, a blanket, maybe even their hands, over the children's faces, and held it there until they stopped breathing. The medical examiner finds petechiae, tiny burst blood vessels in the children's eyes, a classic sign of asphyxiation. There is bruising around their noses and mouths, pressure marks, consistent with someone pressing down hard. And under Liam's fingernails, they find skin cells. He scratched at whatever was covering his face, fought back, tried to breathe. This was not quick. This was not painless. Both children woke up and realized they were being smothered. They struggled. They fought. But they were children. Orc and someone bigger and stronger held them down until they died. Investigators turn their attention to Kelli. They dig into her background, her recent history, and they find a motive. Kelli had been in a bitter custody battle with her ex-husband, the children's father. The divorce had been ugly, both sides accusing the other of being unfit parents, both sides fighting for primary custody, and Kelli was losing. The court had been leaning toward giving the father more custody time, maybe even primary custody. Kelli was looking at a future where she would only see her kids every other weekend. She told friends she could not handle it, that she would rather die than lose her kids to her ex. And in journal entries found in her home, she wrote, "If I can't have them, he won't either." Detectives find evidence that Kelli had been researching ways to kill without leaving obvious evidence. She had Googled how to make death look natural and can you smother someone without leaving marks. She had been planning this. On the night of September 1st, 2011, after putting the kids to bed, Kelli made her decision. She went into Liam's room first. He was 9 years old, asleep, probably dreaming. She pressed a pillow over his face. He woke up immediately, started thrashing, tried to push her away, but she held that pillow down, pressed harder, waited. His movements got weaker, then stopped. Then she went to 6-year-old Madigan's room. Sweet little Madigan, who was still clutching her favorite stuffed animal. Kelli did the same thing. Pillow over the face. Press. Hold. Wait. Madigan struggled too. Kicked. Made muffled sounds. But a 6-year-old cannot fight off an adult. When both children were dead, Kelli went to bed. She slept for a few hours. Then she woke up, called 911, and pretended to be a devastated mother who just discovered her children dead. At trial, the prosecution argued that this was revenge. Kelli did not kill her children because she hated them. She killed them to punish their father. She wanted him to live with the pain of losing them. She wanted to destroy him the way she felt destroyed by the divorce and custody battle. The jury heard all the evidence, the Google searches, the journal entries, the text messages where Kelli told a friend, "He's going to regret taking them from me." They saw the autopsy photos. 2 small children who died, terrified, struggling to breathe. Kelli Murphy was convicted of 2 counts of first-degree murder after deliberation. She was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. During sentencing, Liam and Madigan's father gave a victim impact statement. He talked about how he lost more than his children that night. He lost every future milestone, every birthday, every Christmas, every graduation, every wedding. He talked about how he has to live every day knowing that his children died afraid, crying for help that never came, that they died at the hands of their own mother. And it was all because Kelli Murphy cared more about winning a custody battle than she cared about her own children's lives. Liam was 9 years old. Madigan was 6. Case 6. Mythia Latka, the special needs, child left to die. January 12, 2023, Pueblo, Colorado. At 4:32 a.m., paramedics receive a call for an unresponsive toddler. They rush to an apartment building on the south side of Pueblo. The mother, Mythia Latka, meets them at the door. She is calm, too calm. She leads them inside to a small bedroom where 2-year-old Ezekiel Irwin is lying on a mattress on the floor. He is not breathing. His lips are blue. His small body is already stiff with rigor mortis. One of the paramedics, a veteran with 15 years of experience, looks at the child and knows immediately that this boy has been dead for hours, not minutes, hours. They try CPR anyway, they always try. But there is no reviving Ezekiel. He is gone. While they work, the paramedic looks around the room, and what he sees makes his stomach turn. The room is filthy. There are no toys, no books, no sign that a child lives here. The walls are bare. Except there is a single mattress on the floor with a stained sheet. That is it. And there is a smell. Not just the smell of death, the smell of human waste. Of a room that has not been cleaned in a very long time. When police arrive, they start asking questions. Mythia tells them Ezekiel just stopped breathing in the middle of the night. She says she woke up and found him like this. But the timeline does not make sense. The medical examiner will later determine that Ezekiel died between 10 p.m. and midnight. That means he had been dead for 4 to 6 hours before Mythia called 911. Why did she wait so long? As investigators dig deeper, they uncover a pattern of horrific abuse that had been going on for months. Neighbors report hearing screaming coming from the apartment. Not normal toddler crying, screaming. It's just the kind of screaming that sounds like agony, and it would go on for hours, sometimes all day. They also heard banging, thuds, the sound of something or someone hitting walls. When they asked Mythia about it, she said Ezekiel had behavioral issues, that he was difficult, that he threw tantrums. But Ezekiel did not have behavioral issues. He had special needs. He was developmentally delayed. He needed extra care, extra attention, extra patience, things that Mythia either could not or would not provide. Child Protective Services had been called to the apartment twice in the previous year. Both times Mythia charmed the caseworkers, cleaned up just enough to pass inspection, made promises to do better, and both times CPS closed the case. Now Ezekiel is dead, and the full truth is about to come out. During the investigation, Mythia admits things she probably should have kept to herself. She tells detectives that yes, sometimes she locked Ezekiel in the bedroom, sometimes for hours, sometimes all day. She said he was too much to handle, that she needed breaks, that she could not deal with his crying. But locking him in the room was not just a timeout. Detectives search that bedroom and find it is essentially a prison cell. There are scratches on the inside of the door where Ezekiel clawed at it, trying to get out. There are smears on the walls and feces, urine, showing that he was left in there so long he had no choice but to go to the bathroom on himself and the walls. The mattress is stained with bodily fluids. There are no blankets, no pillows. In the middle of winter in Colorado, this child was locked in a freezing room with nothing, and the autopsy reveals the full extent of the abuse. Ezekiel died from blunt force trauma to the head, combined with severe malnutrition and dehydration. He weighed 18 pounds. At 2 years old, he should have weighed close to 30 pounds. He was literally starving to death. His body was covered in bruises in various stages of healing, some fresh, some old, some so old they had turned yellow. He had been beaten regularly. He had untreated infections, bed sores from lying on a dirty mattress, dental decay so severe that several of his baby teeth had rotted away. The medical examiner said Ezekiel's death was not sudden. It was the culmination of months of systematic abuse and neglect. His small body had been slowly shutting down, and Mythia watched it happen and did nothing. Wick in April 2025, just a few months ago, Mythia Latka was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. During the sentencing hearing, the judge said it was one of the worst cases of child abuse he had ever seen. He said Mythia had every opportunity to get help, to surrender Ezekiel to relatives or to the state, to do literally anything other than what she did. But she chose to lock him in a room and let him die. Mythia showed no emotion during sentencing, no tears, no remorse. She stared straight ahead with a blank expression like she was bored. Ezekiel Irwin was 2 years old. He spent most of his short life locked in a dark room, crying for help that never came. Now we shift. Because mothers are not the only ones who kill their children in Colorado. Fathers do it too. And in case after case, where the same pattern emerges. Custody battles. Men who lose in court. Men who feel powerless. Men who decide that if they cannot have their children, they will make sure no one else can either. What follows are 3 cases of Colorado fathers who chose murder over co-parenting, who valued revenge over their children's lives, who pulled triggers and ended futures because they could not handle losing control. Case 7. Anthony Tesoriero, the father who changed the law. November 17th, 2019. Lone Tree, Colorado. 10-year-old Ty Tesoriero sits in the passenger seat of his father's SUV. They have just left a supervised visitation session at a family services center. Ty is quiet. He knows his dad is angry. He can feel it in the tension, the tight grip on the steering wheel, the jaw clenched so hard the muscles are bulging. Anthony Tesoriero had just lost another custody hearing. The judge ruled against him. Again. The order said that Anthony could only see Ty during supervised visits at the center. No more weekends alone. No more overnights. The court determined that Anthony was a danger to his son. Ty's mother, Adriana, had been fighting for this for years. She had filed police reports documenting Anthony's abuse. She had photos of bruises. She had testimony from neighbors who heard the yelling. She had begged the courts to protect her son, and finally they listened. The judge sided with her. Anthony would get limited, supervised visits. That was it. But Anthony did not accept it. In his mind, Ty was his son, his property. No judge was going to tell him what he could or could not do. As they drive away from the visitation center, and Ty notices his dad is not going the right direction. He is not heading toward the drop-off location where he is supposed to return Ty to his mother. "Dad, where are we going?" Anthony does not answer. He just drives. His knuckles are white on the steering wheel. Dad? Anthony pulls into a parking lot. A shopping center. It is busy. Cars coming and going, people walking in and out of stores. He parks in a corner spot, away from the main entrance. He turns off the engine. Ty's heart is pounding now. Something is very wrong. Dad, what's going on? Anthony reaches into the glove box, pulls out a gun. Ty sees it and freezes. His eyes go wide. His breath catches. Dad, no. Dad, please. Anthony raises the gun, points it at his own son. His 10-year-old boy, who is sitting right there next to him, is looking at him with terrified eyes. Dad, I'm sorry. Whatever I did, I'm sorry. Please don't. Anthony pulls the trigger. The gunshot is deafening in the enclosed space of the car. The bullet enters Ty's head. He slumps forward immediately, held in place only by the seatbelt. Blood sprays across the dashboard, the windshield, Anthony's clothes. Ty Tesoriero dies instantly, still sitting in the passenger seat, still wearing his seatbelt, 10 years old. And then Anthony turns the gun on himself, presses it under his own chin, and pulls the trigger again. Both of them are found hours later by a security guard doing rounds in the parking lot. The guard sees the SUV with fogged windows, approaches, looks inside, and immediately calls 911. Ty's mother, Adriana, had warned everyone. She had told the courts Anthony was dangerous. She had documented years of abuse. She had fought through a system that often doesn't take women's fears seriously, that tells mothers they are being dramatic or vindictive when they report abuse. And finally, after years of fighting, the court had agreed with her. They had limited Anthony's custody. They had put protections in place. But it was too late, because the system gave Anthony one last supervised visit, and he used it to murder his son. After Ty's death, Colorado lawmakers introduced new legislation called Ty's Law. It requires family court judges to undergo training on domestic violence and coercive control. It mandates that judges take abuse allegations more seriously in custody cases. It creates a presumption that an abuser should not have unsupervised access to children. The law passed in 2020. It has helped protect other children since then. But for Ty Tesoriero, the law came too late. He was 10 years old. He loved video games and skateboarding. He was good at math. He wanted to be an engineer when he grew up. His father took all of that away in a parking lot because he could not handle losing a custody battle. Case 8. Adam Zipperer, the Fort Collins tragedy. November 21st, 2022. Fort Collins, Colorado. Police receive a welfare check request for the Zipperer family. A relative had been trying to reach Adam Zipperer for days and could not get a response. The children were supposed to be dropped off for a custody exchange and never showed up. Officers are dispatched to the home on a quiet street in Fort Collins. When they arrive, the house looks normal from the outside. Lights are off. No cars in the driveway. Everything is quiet. They knock. No answer. They call out. Nothing. They try the door. It is unlocked. That is when they know something is wrong. Because in Fort Collins, people lock their doors. Officers enter with weapons drawn, calling out as they move through the house, announcing themselves. They find 3 bodies in a back bedroom, 2 children, 8-year-old Cameron and 6-year-old Audrey Zipperer. Both have been shot in the head. They are lying on a bed covered with a blanket, like someone tucked them in after killing them. On the floor next to the bed is their father, Adam. He has a gunshot wound to the head, A gun is still in his hand. Murder-suicide. Investigators pieced together what happened. Adam and his ex-wife had been in a custody dispute. She was getting primary custody. The court had ruled in her favor. Adam was going to have limited visitation rights. He could not handle it. On the night before he was supposed to return the children to their mother, Adam made a decision. He took Cameron and Audrey to bed. Maybe he read them a story. Maybe he told them good night. Maybe he told them he loved them. And then he shot them both. Cameron first, then Audrey, close range. They died in their sleep. They never knew what happened. And then Adam turned the gun on himself. He left behind a mother who lost both of her children in one night. A woman who had been fighting for primary custody to protect her kids, and who now had no kids left to protect. She had to plan a funeral for both of her babies. She had to bury them side by side, and she had to live with the knowledge that their father, the man she once loved enough to have children with, murdered them rather than let her have custody. Cameron was 8 years old. Audrey was 6. Case 9. William Brueche, the Teller County murder-suicide. March 6th, 2023. Teller County, Colorado. 5-year-old Liam Brueche is supposed to be with his father for a court-ordered custody exchange, but William Brueche does not show up at the designated location. Liam's mother waits, calls, texts. No response. She calls the police, tells them her ex-husband has their son and is not responding, that he missed the exchange, that something is wrong. Police start trying to track William down. They ping his cell phone, they check his home address, they contact family members, and then they get a hit on his truck. It is parked in a remote area of Teller County, up in the mountains, off a dirt road. Officers drive up to the location, find the truck, approach cautiously. Inside are 2 bodies, William Brueche and 5-year-old Liam, both dead. William has a self-inflicted gunshot wound, but Liam does not. Liam was killed with an air rifle, multiple shots. His small body has several wounds. William did not even use a real gun on his son. He used an air rifle, the kind used for hunting small game and target practice. It took multiple shots to kill Liam. He suffered. And then William shot himself with a real gun. Investigators learned that William had been losing custody. The court was about to rule against him. He was going to be reduced to supervised visits only. So he took Liam up into the mountains, shot him with an air rifle, and then killed himself. Liam Brueche was 5 years old. If you made it this far, thank you. These are 9 of the most disturbing cases we have ever covered on Crime Uncovered. 9 Colorado parents who murdered their own children. 9 families destroyed. Some of these cases made national headlines, others were buried in local news and forgotten, but every single one of them matters. Because somewhere, right now, there is another child being hurt, another parent who is planning something unthinkable, another custody battle that is about to turn deadly. And the only way we stop it is by paying attention, by remembering these children, by making sure their stories are told. If you found this video eye-opening, disturbing, or important, please hit the like button. It genuinely helps push this content to more people who need to see what real evil looks like. Subscribe to Crime Uncovered and turn on all notifications. We cover cases like this every week. Cases that are too dark for mainstream media. Cases that get forgotten. We make sure they're not. And drop a comment one more time. Where are you watching from and what time is it right now? I read every single comment. And I want to know how many of you made it through all 9 cases. How many of you are still here in the dark thinking about these children? Because they deserve to be thought about. They deserve to be remembered. Gannon Stauch, the Singular Children, Maha Li Hobbs, Olivia Gant, Liam and Madigan Murphy, Ezekiel Irwin, Ty Tesoriero, Cameron and Audrey Zipperer, Liam Brueche. Say their names, remember their faces, make sure they are not forgotten. Stay safe, stay aware, and never assume that just because someone is a parent, they are on the side of life. Because as we have seen tonight in Colorado, sometimes the most dangerous person in a child's life is the one who gave them life. This is Crime Uncovered. We will be back with another case that needs to be told.